six things. I've got six things to talk to you about tonight. St. Clairsville goes down. Steubenville Big Red goes down. We had blowouts elsewhere in the Ohio Valley. I've got an entire Buckeye 8 breakdown for you this evening. Results from last week, schedules coming up, and No Huddle makes a return on tonight's episode of Hometown Huddle.
All the way to the house, and it's going to be a St. Clairsville touchdown. First play of the game. Hello, touchdown Huskies. Wide open, touchdown Ohio Valley.
I couldn't think of anything to say to open up tonight's show after last week other than it's why we play the games. It's why we play the games, and it's why you and I, as fans, watch the games, to be entertained. We hope we're very entertaining for you. Welcome into Hometown Huddle on the Harco Media Network. I'm your hopefully entertaining host, probably not, Drake Watson, on this very comfortable 60-degree evening in Cadiz, Ohio. I feel like Phil Collins, because I've waited for this moment my entire life. We could just press pause on the temperature right now. Maybe let it get to the mid-50s before we do that. But this is great. It's really starting to feel like football outside, and it felt like football over the weekend as well. Ohio has wrapped up week 1. We've got to talk about that. We've got to talk about week 2. We've got to talk about West Virginia getting started tomorrow night. We've got to talk about all that and more on tonight's show. It's just a beautiful Wednesday night in Cadiz, Ohio, and all throughout the Ohio Valley. Before we get started, I need you to do one thing. If you're watching on YouTube, you know where it's at, you know where to find it, you know how to do it. I just need you to tap or click the subscribe button, and that's all we ask of you. If you're watching on Facebook, I need you to pause, jump over to YouTube, Harco Media Network, and press the red subscribe button on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, I need you to I need you to pull over, then stop the car, act like you're broken down if you have to, jump over to YouTube and press subscribe. That's all we need you to do. Let's get started on tonight's show. I talked to you about St. Clairsville and Norwayne last week, and I said, flip a coin kind of game. And final score on Friday night was Norwayne 47, St. Clairsville 27. But if I told you that it was still kind of a flip a coin game, would you believe me? Probably not. You probably think, oh, I'm insane, and it was quite the antithesis of that. 20-point Bobcat blowout, right? Well, let me tell you what happened. Let me calm down for a second, too. Got a lot of caffeine rushing through the blood tonight. It was a game that consisted of a 28-point swing over the course of two main events in favor of Norwayne. St. Clairsville, again, Norwayne won the game by 20 points, but think about how close St. Clairsville was to winning this game. They had the ball on the 9-yard line. They had the ball at the 1-yard line going in. Both times, instead of scoring touchdowns, they cough up the pigskin, and Norwayne picks it up and runs it back for a touchdown. 14-point swings each time. And that's how you paint yourself a picture where St. Clairsville could have won the game, but literally two bounce of ball situations didn't go their way, and Norwayne ends up with a huge win. That'll really help them out throughout their season. So, what do you make of this? I think the sky's not falling in St. Clairsville. It's one game, and they've got an opportunity, frankly, to win 9 more, even more than that if they're capable of it. But it is a setback for sure. Let's be realistic here. It's a setback, and they've got that. I just can't help but think about that stretch they have from week 6 to week 9 in the back half of their season. They've got to go to Wheeling Park. They've got to go to Bel Air. They host Bloom Carroll, and they've got to go to Indian Creek. I think how they perform in that 4-week stretch will really determine where they sit in terms of seeding as we move into the playoffs in week 11. Will they play in week 11? I don't think the Norwayne loss is anything to freak out about if you think they can run the table and take care of business in those 4 games, as long as they hold on to the football and could probably clean up their pass defense as well. If they can fix things and go 4-0 in that stretch, then they're perfectly fine. But let's say they split those 4 games and they end up at 7-3. Now you're asking yourself, if you're a St. Clairsville fan, do I got to put gas in the tank? Do we have a long road trip ahead of us for our first round playoff game on the road because we are a 10 seed? So I don't think anything to freak out about initially for St. Clairsville, but it just puts the emphasis on those 4 games. It puts much more of an emphasis on those games because those are going to hold more weight in terms of their path to the playoff as we move along throughout the season. But no reason to freak out or panic about St. Clairsville. Just a little more intensity going to be put on that 4-week stretch in the back half of the season. Let's talk about the Steubenville game. First, let's take a sip of water. We should probably all do this in unison. That's probably weird, but if you're listening on podcast, few seconds of silence here as I take a sip. That's good stuff. It's just pure. It's so pure. It's 100% H2O by volume, if you're wondering. Youngstown Ursuline comes down and walks into Harding Stadium to face Steubenville Big Red last Friday night. And I don't know that, let's be honest, I don't know that anybody saw this coming. I think many folks thought Ursuline could win, myself included. I thought they could win. I thought Big Red could win. Many folks thought it would go either way. And that couldn't be further from what actually happened up in Jefferson County. Final score, Ursuline 37, Steubenville 7. I'm gonna pause for effect. Actually, I just need to collect my thoughts on this game. Not many. Game breakdown. Steubenville couldn't move the ball. Ursuline wouldn't stop moving the ball. And Big Red goes down by 30 points. This is the second straight game that Steubenville has lost as a program by a final score of 37-7. So it makes you a little concerned. Where it's different from the St. Clairsville situation is I'm not entirely concerned about the way they're playing right now. I mean, obviously they got to hold on to the ball and they could probably give up less yards through the air. But with Steubenville, this is now back-to-back games that we've seen them get blown out. And once again, I don't think it's anything to really panic about. I don't think the sky is falling, but I think there is a little bit of concern when they go up against either comparable opponents or better competition. This is 2 games in a row that they've lost by 30 points. And so there's not really a game breakdown, but if we look at the same thing we did with the St. Clairsville game, when we look at the playoff picture and how it shapes up for Steubenville, similar thing. They've got Cardinal Mooney still. They've got Dover. They've got Wheeling Park. Dunbar's a good team coming from D.C., and they've got Indian Valley coming in there this Friday night, and Grady Kinsey and that Braves rushing attack won't be easy to stop. So although there's more concern with the Steubenville loss to Ursuline as opposed to a St. Clairsville loss to Norwayne, I still think they're similar situations. No time to panic, but it just makes it that much more imperative that Steubenville does well in their big games as they try to get a preferable playoff seed. They go 9-1, great. They've got a good seed. They're going to do their thing in the playoffs. But if they go 7-3, I don't know that you can be so sure that you have a playoff game, given how difficult Region 11 is and was last year. Last year, I want to say it was 5 or 6 teams that would have been left out if it was a 12-team playoff. 5 or 6 teams that had records of 7-3 or better. So Steubenville has been set back a little bit by the loss, but obviously no time to panic. They've got plenty of opportunities to make up ground and get where they want to be at the end of the regular season. But who saw that coming? 37-7? Did I tell you that's 2 straight 37-7 losses for Big Red? I've got another interesting stat about them coming up later in the show. What do we got to get to? We've got other games that we talked about on the show last week. Let's start with Bridgeport and Frontier. This was the Thursday night game, the season opener for both of these teams. Bridgeport, winners of the last 3 in this series. That streak is no more. Final score, Frontier 36, Bridgeport 13. Well, what did we say about Bridgeport on last week's show? I said if they can run the football and play good defense, their coaches will say this too, run the ball, keyword, and play good defense, then they should be able to win some games and do well this season. Unfortunately for the Bulldogs, only half of that happened on Thursday night in Frontier. Little impromptu sip of water. Only half of that happened. Ja'Kai 3 is the quarterback for Bridgeport. Did well running the football. Under 20 carries and he had over 70 yards. So pretty good statistics running the ball. But it's almost irrelevant because defensively, Bridgeport gave up almost 200 yards rushing to one guy, and they gave up 80 yards passing on 3 completions. So that just screams big plays to me. And so if they're going to want to, if they're going to want to do better this season and improve and win some games, then that's got to get cleaned up immediately. Obviously, you don't just clean things up. They've got to work it in practice, and they've got to come up with their plan for how to improve that. But from an outsider perspective, if they can clean that up, then they should be able to do better and win some games. So we thought it would be close, but we thought it would be close given that Bridgeport can run the ball and play good defense. They were able to run the ball decently, and they didn't play good defense. Also, not great numbers through the air either. Ja'Kai Threet was 8 of 20 for less than 80 yards. That's much better than what I could do in the parking lot, but frankly wasn't good enough on Thursday night. So they're definitely going to need better defensive play and probably a little bit better play from their passing attack as well moving forward this season. Mouth is very dry. It's a very dry time right now as far as what's going on in people's heads, because I still think that they released all of the pollen. Whoever's in charge of all this decided last week to release all of the pollen into the air all at once. And so it's got me messed up. I'm sure it's got some of you messed up, but we're working through it as well as we can. I was at 2 games this past weekend. I was at Shadyside for the first time, experiencing Shadyside football at Fleming Field. And outside of the game itself, everything was great. You couldn't turn down one street in Shadyside on that Thursday evening and not see people on their way to the game. You couldn't walk into any restaurant and not hear people talking about the game or getting ready for the game. The atmosphere inside the stadium was great as well. The stands were packed, both sides really. Good showing from the East Palestine crowd as well. They had programs. They had merchandise. The concession stand was busy all night long, and they had good stuff in there. Might want to restock on the pepperoni rolls. But the actual game, final score, East Palestine 40, Shadyside 7. Not as good as the fan experience was the product on the field. I was at this game, so I can give you a little more of a detailed breakdown. Shadyside kicks off. I'm showing you footage on your screen right now. Shadyside kicks off, and East Palestine fumbles. You think, oh, great opportunity for Shadyside. Well, they couldn't do much with it. And so they give the ball back to the Bulldogs of East Palestine. And we kind of do that back and forth throughout the first quarter. East Palestine had another fumble in there. Shadyside still couldn't get anything going offensively. And we're scoreless after the first quarter. And then sometime in the second quarter, all hell broke loose. And RJ May, to be exact, broke loose for East Palestine, and he got open, and they just kept going to him and going to him. He ended up racking up over 100 yards receiving on the evening, 2 touchdowns, and before you know it, you look up in the second quarter, and it's 13-0 East Palestine. I'm thinking, at this point, it's later in the second quarter. I think there's 3 or 4 minutes to go, and Shadyside's got the ball. I'm thinking, even if they don't score, if they can just run out this clock and go to the locker room down 13, they're still okay, because they'll get the ball to start the second half. If they can make some adjustments, script some plays up, and find the end zone, they're right back in this game. That's what I thought they could have done, but they weren't able to do that. They couldn't hold on to the ball for the last 3 or 4 minutes of the first half. They gave it back to East Palestine, and the Bulldogs score one more time, and at halftime, it's 20-0. Shadyside's down. Then they come out in the second half, and I think I stayed until it was 27 or 34-0. And that's when we decided to go back up to northern Belmont County. Great experience at Shadyside, but again, final score 40-7. East Palestine, the winners in that one. RJ May is going to be a force to be reckoned with. East Palestine's in the OVAC, so he can make some noise. He's also a standout player in track as well, I believe. So he's going to make some noise. Shadyside, they had tough times moving the ball. They had tough times protecting the quarterback. Their offensive line is going to have to play better for them moving forward. After that game and looking at the Bridgeport game, I just thought, well, now this Bridgeport-Shadyside game later in the season looks pretty intriguing. And maybe East Palestine and Frontier would be a good game as well. I was at Harrison Central, just down the road, on Friday night doing play-by-play for their game against Claymont. The battle for Tappan Lake. Claymont hadn't won the game since 2011, and that all changed Friday night. Final score, Claymont 34, Harrison Central 14. One of the takeaways I had for Harrison Central offensively is they've got playmakers and there are plays to be made. I'm not so sure there's an identity or confidence in an identity as far as how they want to get those guys involved. I think they're still searching for the best way to do that. That's going to be one of the things that's going to be important for them as they go throughout their season. Defensively, a couple big plays really hurt them, and then Claymont really, I mean, you really don't know what Harrison Central's supposed to do as far as an answer defensively. Claymont put in this guy who they didn't have a weight on the roster, but easily 200 plus, probably 250 plus. He literally played running back on offense and defensive tackle on defense. And once he got in the game, half the time, depending on what the substitution looked like defensively for the Huskies, he was the biggest guy. Claymont's running back, Braylon Mullen was his name, number 49, big guy. I wouldn't want to try to tackle him, and that's all you could do is try to tackle him. They put him in the game, and just like a bowling ball, the Huskies couldn't stop him, and that's essentially all she wrote. So Harrison Central, kind of not much of an identity offensively. They only came up with 14 points. In Claymont, a couple big plays, and then putting in a literal tank at running back was the difference in the game, and they get the win 34-14. Let's take a break. What do we want to talk about coming back? Let's do the games we're looking forward to this week. I'm going to take a break, and we'll come right back and talk about our games of the week on Hometown Huddle coming up after this.
Hey, quick timeout. Little stoppage in the action. I wanted to ask you, are you subscribed to the channel, following the Facebook page, 5 stars on the podcast format? If not, that's all we need you to do. That's all it takes. Just one press of a button and you help us out immensely and help us deliver great content to you. Also, sponsorship packages are now available. You want your company's logo on Hometown Huddle and join us? Hit us up. Email drakewatson@harcomedia.com for more information about sponsorship packages. And with that, back to the show.
If you're listening on podcast and wondering why that sounded so odd, that was me down at Shadyside. And once again, if you're interested in anything sponsorship related, the email is drakewatson@harcomedia.com. All right, let's talk about our games of the week here at Hometown Huddle. I talked about this game a month ago. I think it was July 30th. It's Indian Valley at Steubenville. Still think it's a huge game. Most of what we said in that game still holds up, and I want to be pretty brief on this one because we did talk about this one a month ago, and I already talked about Steubenville a good bit tonight. First of all, do you know the last time, and I think there's a chance this happens on Friday, you know the last time Steubenville started a season 0-2? Wrong. 1956. I don't know what you said, but it's 1956. That's a possibility on Friday night. When I think about this game, I wonder, is this the kind of game that can go either way, but might not be close? If you can believe that. How does that happen? Here's how it happens. Think about Grady Kinsey, again, the Air Force commit at running back for Indian Valley. Think about him and that rushing attack. If Steubenville can stop them, does Indian Valley have any other answer? And if not, I think it's a long night for the Braves, and I think Steubenville wins probably big. What about the opposite scenario? If they can't stop Grady Kinsey, and Indian Valley is able to run the ball all night long, they're able to eat up the game clock and control the football, I think that spells bad news for Steubenville. And I think Indian Valley could win big. It's one of those games, and I'm not confident that that's the case, but I think it could be one of those games where it could go either way, but we don't think it'll be close. But we'll see. The Fantastic 50 margin, if I hadn't told you already, Fantastic 50, if you're any kind of fan of Ohio high school football, you need to go to that site, find your region, find your team, and look at the numbers on there. And the margin on this game, they project Indian Valley to win by 2. Do with that what you will, make of that what you will, but we're looking forward to a great game. We're going to be keeping our eye on that one. I told you that West Virginia starts playing football this week. Couldn't be more excited. I will most likely be at this game on Thursday night. Oak Glen at Weirton. They play for the Carl Hamill Trophy. The trophy is actually going to be brand new this season. Weirton won this game last year, and they got to keep the old trophy permanently. They're going to be building a new one. Weirton leads the series 40-20 all time. Both of these teams coming off of 3-game winning streaks in the series. The Golden Bears of Oak Glen won it in 19, 20, and 21. And obviously Weirton won in 22, 23, and 24. I think this has a lot of intrigue all over it. Both of these teams went 1-9 last season. Both of them have brand new head coaches. TJ Miller is taking over for Doug Taylor at Oak Glen, and Quincy Wilson is taking over for Frank Sassini at Weirton. I think it's a huge game in terms of, obviously both of those teams are looking to improve on last year's record. Well, how do you improve on a 1-9 record? You win 2 games. And obviously the winner on Thursday night is going to be halfway there. So I think it'll be huge. Again, Weirton won last year. I was actually at this game at Oak Glen last year. That's also a great place. I love the way their stadium is configured. Weirton won last year 40-21. We're keeping an eye on this game. We hope it'll be good. If I'm there, be sure to follow on the socials. They're also on your screen. It's just Harco Media Network everywhere, and we'll be able to keep you updated on that game. The next game, I have no idea which way to go on this one. Carrollton travels to Edison. The projected margin on the Fantastic 50 site is Edison by 4. I think it could go either way, mainly because I don't know what to make of either of these teams yet. We talk all the time about, and I talked earlier about, how can you get ahead in the playoff race? I think the winner of this game, this is a huge step for them, a huge boost in getting ahead for where they sit in terms of playoff seeding. Frankly, because I think it's a game where a lot of playoff points are on the line, and the winner will have many points awarded to them. I think home field advantage could play a factor for Edison. I think their experience and guys like J.D. Henderson could be big. So I'm not sure. Carrollton's also a team that I'm not entirely sure how to read yet, because we don't know how good East Liverpool is, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But still, I'm not going to make the mistake of predicting this to be a close game, but I don't know where to go on it. But should be a good one. The other game that we're keeping an eye on, the last one here, is a game that you can tune into. And again, if you haven't heard enough of me already, I've heard enough of me already, but KISS 95.7 on Friday night. Pregame show is at 6:40. I'll be at this game doing play-by-play on the radio. You remember how to, I don't know many people have this in their car anymore, but you twist the knob and, you hear a static and there you go, 95.7. That's where you're going to want to be on Friday night. This is just the 9th meeting of all time that I say it's Union Local at Wheeling Central Catholic. The 9th meeting of all time. The series dates back to 1981. They last played in 2020. Wheeling Central leads the series 6-2, but I said on a show a few weeks ago that if they haven't played in 4+ years, then really the history of the matchup doesn't matter to me much, because none of those teams had anything to do with the game coming up on Friday night. Both teams are trying to improve on a 9-3 season a year ago. So similar to the Edison and Carrollton game, it'll be a big boost for the winner. I think if Union Local wins, their chances of winning 8 more games is greatly increased. They can't overlook this game because they've got to go to Indian Creek next week. But after that, I don't know if they'll be tested until they play Barnesville in Week 10. If Wheeling Central can win, you just have that much more confidence as they get ready for Fort Fry, Barnesville, and Martins Ferry, some tough games on their schedule. Some guys I'm keeping an eye on: Colby Carpenter, the quarterback for Union Local, Nico Cusick, the quarterback for Wheeling Central. I can't stand when I listen to people talk about football on the radio and they make this up to be like it's a quarterback duel. They're never on the field at the same time. I mean, in high school they will be, but so it's not like I'm looking at Colby Carpenter versus Nico Cusick all at one time, but I'm just looking at when they have the ball, who has more command of the offense and who can really take over the game. I think Max Oliage, the 6'7" receiver for Wheeling Central, he can make a difference. I think I should probably slow down a little bit. Just excited about this game. Brody Perzanowski, he's been doing good things for Union Local for a long time now. He's the running back. He's going to have to be pivotal if Union Local wants to win that game. So those are the games that we're keeping an eye on. Indian Valley at Steubenville, Oak Glen at Weirton, Carrollton at Edison, and Union Local at Wheeling Central Catholic. Going to take another sip of water. I'm almost out over here. How funny would it be if I just threw it on the floor and never picked it up? I think I'd be kicked out. All right, moving along, we've got one more segment for this evening, and this is our weekly No Huddle segment. So once again, I'm going to be pretty quick, not going to go super in-depth on any of these games, but I'm just going to rattle off scores and schedules for you. So we'll give last week's results and the games coming up. So last week, Steubenville Catholic Central defeated Wellsville on the road 26-15. They host Strasburg next on Saturday, actually. That's an August 30th game. Toronto won 34-0 against Southern Local. They go to Lowville next. Conotton Valley defeated Tuscarora Central Catholic 50-22. They host Millersport on Thursday night. Buckeye Trail lost 38-0 at the new Caldwell Turf. They've got Crooksville next. Bridgeport, as we said, lost 36-13 at Frontier. They go to Shenandoah on Friday night. Shadyside lost 40-7, as we said, to East Palestine. They go to Southern Local on Friday night. Lindsley opens up with Westinghouse on the 30th. That's a Saturday game. Wheeling Park opens up with Parkersburg South at home. Cameron hosts Clay Battelle for their first game of the season. John Marshall hosting Marietta for their first game of the season. Monroe Central, a close 21-20 loss at Liberty Union. They host Bel Air on Friday night. That's another game that I think we probably could have mentioned for our games that we're keeping an eye on. And River, the winners over Perry Traditional, 36-12. They've got Buckeye Local next. So that's a look at all the things, all the scores and schedules that we give you, and that I think that's a wrap on our 6 segments that we had planned for you tonight. Before we leave, and before I let you go, once again, we'll be back. It's going to be September, so I don't know what the date will be, but Wednesday night, 9:00, we're going to be right here on Facebook, on YouTube, and on your podcast feed. But before we go, I did want to mention that here at Harco Media, our thoughts are with the communities of both Tusky Valley and Harrison Central. I said it when Emma Lyons saved a kid's life. No matter how passionate we get about sports on this show, we'll always acknowledge that the stuff we talk about is nowhere near as important and never will be as important as the stuff that those communities and families are going through. I'm sitting here in Cadiz, so I'll speak on the behalf of Harrison Central and just note how appreciative this community is of the outreach and thoughts of other neighboring schools. Those things are special and they really mean a lot to a community through this rough time. So once again, we want to be very clear that those things are far more serious than what we've talked about for the last however long we've been here. Our thoughts are with both of those communities, and we appreciate the Harrison Central community. I know is greatly appreciative of the outreach of all the other schools from around the valley and anywhere else. So just wanted to touch on that real quick before we get out of here. But with that said, that is all we have for tonight on Hometown Huddle. Once again, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you comment. Keep the conversation going. And we will be right back here on Wednesday night. We will talk about all the games in West Virginia. We'll talk about Week 2 in Ohio and much more on Hometown Huddle. So for everyone at Harco Media, I'm Drake Watson saying goodbye for now. We'll talk again next week.